Hello, and welcome to the Where to Start Yoga series. My name is Clyde Hampton, aka Champion Yogi, and I am here again in one Raw Yoga studio in Sanford, Florida. Again, if you want to come practice with me, 11 a.m. Sundays, Eastern Time, I'm always here. Pull up, let's have some fun for some strengthening yoga. Start to work on the body and get yourself in a better space. Today, we are doing episode one of the float. The float is one of my favorites. I love it. It's something that I started doing on my own personal practice because I just wanted to see was it possible. And then it grew and turned into a whole other thing. And now it's here and now I'm teaching it and now I am handing it to you. Let's start, but we always start. Let's set our intentions. My intentions is to help you learn a little bit more body control, to help you strengthen your arms, get better at those inversions, make them a part of your practice as opposed to a part of your teaching style or just something that you like to have fun around with sometimes and maybe be a little bit more creative into your own personal flows. So my intention is just to help you find that awareness in your body, find that comfort in your body, and start to strengthen your body in the spaces where you can have that full body control as you go through your process. Okay? So where do we start with the float? We always want to start in the same place with that warm up. So let's come on down to the mat. As we get down onto our mat, we're going to get into the hands again today. This is a big, much of an arm balance situation when it comes around with dealing with that float. So floating is all about getting the whole body to float up into the air and then being able to keep stagnant control over your body while just having your hands down. It definitely gives an impression that you have defied gravity in some way, shape, or form. However, you have not. You've learned how to use the strength in your arms. And so today, to get started with the float, for step one of the float from the beginners, we're just going to work through our chaturangas today, okay? Chaturanga is really going to help you to find that good, comfortable space. So what do we want to do? We want to warm up the body. We want to start with those wrists. We want to bring those wrists down to add a little bit of weight over the wrist. But again, starting right here, palms together, roll the hands out. This can be a good place to start to wake the wrist up, especially if you're cold, especially if your body needs a little bit more. As always, when it comes down to your warm-ups before you get into yoga, you want to give your wrist at least 3 to 5 good, strong minutes of good movement around. You can be rolling around over the wrist. That's super useful for you, taking it around to the left and the right. You can be going back and forth. Back and forth is going to be very useful for you as this is a big part of what we're going to be doing today to start building up for that float today. And then you can also turn the hands out to the side, have that left and right, turn the hands back behind you, have that back and forth. Pressing those palms down, getting nice and strong, but rolling those elbows in. It's going to be the great place for you to be in today. Also, we have a lot that's going into the quads, into the hips as well. So if you want to spread the knees out, allow those hips to sink down and rest back here. And again, just bring your hands to your hips and we're going to start waking up the quads and the hips just right here. Pressing into the hips, rise up and bring it forward. And again, you're just learning to control how much your legs have into that spring action. As you pop up out of this and rise up into that float, a lot of it is how much into your legs, how far did you float forward, how far did you bring your face forward. And that's what's going to allow you to have that comfortable space to be able to stack and stop and pause in midair to doing that float. Okay, so allowing the hips to sink down, allowing the quads to open up, and then allowing yourself to rise back up to start to give you that propel action that you're going to need to come into the float. Okay, so with that being said, let's start to talk about what things you need to work on to strengthen for your float. Those are the things you need to do to stretch, but here's how you're going to strengthen for it. Again, that flotation usually starts from a downward facing dog position, right? You're resting your heels down. You need to have a nice, good amount of space. Maybe your heels don't touch the mat, and that's okay. Keep a little bend into the knees, roll the elbows together, and relax the shoulders. And right here is where you're going to start to work on your float position, okay? If I was you, I would start here by bringing the knees down and be into the space. If you're a little stronger than this first stage, feel free to skip over it and go to the next part. But if this is where you need to start, this is where you need to start. You're going to take the hips back right here. Good. Maybe even tuck the toes under, but let's start with the toes untucked first. Take the hips back right here. Push your body weight forward. So roll those elbows together. As your shoulders float over your fingertips, just bend into the elbows a little bit right here and pause. Good. Now press into those palms, take it all the way back up and all the way back towards your heels, nice and long. Then lift the hips up, try to float your body forward, roll those elbows together, bend into the elbows just a little bit, pause right here. and then press into those palms and take it all the way back. A good few rounds of that should help you out a lot. 3 sets of 10 is always good. 3 sets of 15 is even better. Have as many as you like, as your hands can handle, as your wrist can tolerate, and your arms will appreciate out of you to help you start to find that space. Once you get into that space, you're going to start to bring those toes in, as we talked about just before, and maybe start to get the hips to come up into your float. And this is really where you're going to start to strengthen that in round one, in episode one, to be able to help you start to work into that float. So with the toes tucked under, you're going to press and let the hips rise up. Push the head over the arms, squeeze the elbows in, maybe just a little bit of a bend right here, and then take it all the way back. Lower those knees down into that space. Again, this is a really big step right here. The step one is going to be a lot of stuff, because where you could be starting from today. Maybe you're starting from a place where having your knees up is going to be a lot, and that's a lot for you. And so keeping the knees down and just shifting back and forth is probably where you're going to be. If you're a little bit past that, maybe tucking the toes and bringing the hips up as you float forward, squeezing the elbows in, bringing it down just a little bit might be the space for you to start working into your practice right now, to start to trying to find that float. And then maybe you can start to strengthen the arms a little bit more. Maybe you have a little bit more space. You can maybe bring your forehead all the way down to the mat. Okay. So as your hips are back, your toes are tucked, you're going to press into those feet to rise up again, shift your body weight forward, roll those elbows together, and then bend into the elbows and try to bring your forehead all the way down to the mat. Once your forehead comes gently down, press into those palms, take it all the way back, and lower the knees down. Now, bringing your forehead down is not necessarily a beneficial part of the float as much, because you're not going to bring your forehead down when you start going into the float, right? Everything's going to stay up. But what bringing your forehead down does do is it allows you to start to learn to control into your arms, right? So as you bring yourself all the way up, if you know that you're going to bring your forehead down to the earth, you know that you have to be on a high level of control, and you know that you have to let your forehead gently come down to the floor, right? You can't just crash your forehead down to the floor. So that's going to start to help you build up that control to hold that float stagnant in the spaces that you want to hold it in. So lifting the hips up, shifting it forward, allowing that forehead to come down nice and gently. If you tap your forehead down and that hurts, then that's not a space that you're supposed to be in yet. Start to reduce the range. You can even add a block, so the range is not as deep anymore as you rise up and you start to come here. Maybe your arms are a little stronger and they can get you to that block, but not quite all the way down to the mat yet. So if you can't make it all the way down to the mat with your forehead touching in a nice, soft, gentle way, reduce the space by using your block. Also reduce the space just by not touching the mat at all. Float all the way up, bend in, find your comfortable space, take it all the way back. Again, those are 3 different stages that you could be working through today, that you could be starting in today, starting to work towards your float. You just want to start building up the strength to be able to catch your body with those elbows in, those good chaturanga arms. It's going to allow you that space to stack, hold, and eventually be able to play around with your legs and do all kinds of other things during your float. But that is your float for today. That is your float lesson for today. That is your strengthening for today. Again, 3 sets of 10 is what you want to work with to start to strengthen your body, to start to push yourself to that next space. And in the next episode, again, as always, it's going to get a little bit more challenging. But take the time, take this week, work on those things, start to build up your strength, start to work through your wrist. If it's taking you longer than a week, remember these videos are recorded. They're here for you. Come back when you're ready. Take as much time as you need to run through it. And once you get into a comfortable space, then you can start moving forward into the next round of growing to have this as a practice in yours. I want to thank you guys for being here for me today. Again, if anything didn't work out for you, or you have a little bit more confusion, something that I didn't kind of explain, feel free to inbox me and message me on any of my social media platforms at c.hemp.ionyogi. Feel free to message me. Let's book some private sessions. Let's get you set up so that I can talk to you about what's happening in your body, in your specific practice, and help you find the space so you can be able to do these things for yourself. Thank you, thank you, thank you for coming to episode 1 of The Float. You are going to be better and stronger and more aware in your body when this is all over. Congratulations in advance. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you guys next time.